Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of College Blitz. I'm Russ Morgan here with my man Q. Q, I'm gonna say it once just because I haven't seen you in the new year, but I'm of the Larry David method. It is way too late for a happy new year, but because we haven't been on, I'm gonna give you a happy new year, and that's the last time. It's because we haven't seen each other, but
for the last time in 2026, happy new year, bro. Good to see you, man.
But it's been a while since we got on. I know you had some family stuff to take care of, so we haven't been on for the quarterfinals and the semifinals. I have a funny story about that, right? So I'm out. I go out on New Year's Eve for a little bit. I'm not a huge I'm like, all right, I guess I got to go out for a couple drinks when I know Miami's going to win. Like, they have the ball up, 7? I'm like, all right, ball game's over. I go for the last 3 minutes. Sitting at the bar, having my beer. This guy goes, shots, Miami won. I'm like, all right, he's a Miami fan. He stands up. He's got a Georgia Bulldogs sweatshirt on.
Oh, wow.
I'm like,
that's impressive.
Why are you celebrating a Miami win?
Yeah, that's impressive. Would not have guessed that.
I'm like, why is this guy celebrating? I mean, like you're a big Carson Beck fan?
Hey, he's one of the few that, man, because I've had to have a couple conversations with Georgia fans over Carson Beck, man. You know, they're they range anywhere from really butthurt to indifferent, and I've had that run-in with a few people, especially after Georgia getting eliminated, and it's been enjoyable. It's definitely been enjoyable, defending my guy Carson Beck, because he's gotten a lot of crap from people, man, without truly deserving it, and I think a lot of their anger and hate, I think is I just think it's overboard. I think it's misdirected. To be honest with you, that guy, while he was there, man, won a lot of games, did a lot of good for that team. I told some people the other day, he of all the people that got in trouble at Georgia, you never saw his name, in the papers. You never saw his name.
You saw his
anywhere
name in the papers in Miami, though.
Well, but not from getting in trouble, though. Not from getting in trouble, right?
Not for any legal issues.
Exactly, right. Not unlike the guys at Georgia, at every position group, right? But all these guys that were getting arrested for speeding and reckless driving. I mean, Jalen Carter was responsible for killing a teammate and 2 trainers, on the team, right? I mean, he left the scene of an accident, that he caused, and so. Again, you don't want to make light of that. You don't want to make fun of that, but it's more for context, right? I mean, you never heard him involved in anything like that, right? And so, again, man, for a guy,
for Carson
exactly, man, but really no trouble of any kind. There was no trouble of any kind. That there was a lot of hearsay, right? There was a lot of, he said, she said, oh, he does this or he's arrogant, but it was all a bunch of subjective stuff. There was nothing ever concrete that came out about Carson Beck that you could ever, hang your hat on in terms of, oh, he's a damn drunk delinquent, no, like people were hating on him because he was driving a Lamborghini in Athens, Georgia, right? I mean, it was, because he wore a nice watch and had this and that. Obviously, the guy was making good money, right? And so
allegedly had, cheated on his girlfriend, allegedly.
Yeah.
No one ever,
whoever came forward with that, right? Whoever came forward and confirmed that.
I don't know if you saw it. I find it hilarious. I saw when that came out, there was only takes Carson Beck 1 week to cheat with a hot Latina.
Yeah.
When he moves to Miami, I'm like, hey.
And dude,
I'm with you. I think with Carson Beck, not being a Georgia fan, I know they're going to be pissed. You didn't want to pay him $4.5 million. You got a lot of money.
And that, and again, and even there, Russ, I mean, that there's nothing concrete on that.
No,
there's nothing concrete on that. That's all speculation. Listen, I know people. I don't know. I'm not going to say, I'm an insider or anything like that. I know people who know people within the program, and I've heard 2 to 2.5. Right. And you look around now at the landscape of college football, man, you look at Darian Mensah. Look, how many people that don't follow college football know who Darian Mensah is? No. Right. He's a starting quarterback at Duke. That guy was getting paid $4 million a year. Nobody batted an eye at that. Darian Mance was going to pay $4 million a year. Nobody knew who that guy was.
Yeah.
Right? You talk about Carson Beck, a guy who was, who went to, 2 SEC title games, right? Won a ton of games as a starter in all the most hostile environments in the SEC. And we're batting an eye because that guy's making a bunch of money in NIL. Like and again, that's the thing I've always kind of referenced with Carson Beck. It's all made up. It's all media fabrications. That guy's never done anything where you can hang your hat on and say, "Oh, Carson Beck is a terrible teammate. Carson Beck got arrested. Carson Beck, slapped his girlfriend. Carson Beck, was arrested for DUI or leaving the scene of an accident." Right? He's never done any of that.
I think this whole NIL thing is just smoke and mirrors, honestly. It's all just numbers, and then like, hey, we'll give you this number, but you got to do appearances. You got to go do commercials at this car lot. It's all BS. I think I'm like, we'll give you 4.5, but you got to do this. You got to do this. It's not like he's just getting $4.5 million handed to him.
Yeah.
Like, hey, go play football. Here's $4.5 million. It's you'll get this money, but here's these stipulations to getting that money. You have to, just like we saw with Nico, you have to do your public appearance.
Well, that's the spirit of the rule, right? The name, image, likeness, stipulation was always, it's not pay for play, right? It's pay for appearance and pay for a certain type of work, right? Whether it's autograph signing, commercials, talk shows, podcasts, whatever it is. That was always the spirit of the rule. Now, the NCAA has let it become what it's become. And obviously now essentially it's the Wild Wild West, right? But the spirit of the rule was always, name, image, likeness was you're getting paid to provide a service, not play football.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
And so, we've gone away from that. The NCAA has allowed it, to get this way. Now, do I think long term this is going to survive, in its current format? No, I think at some point they're going to have to adjust some things in the whole deal. In terms of true NIL, right now there's revenue share, right, where every team gets $20.5 million and you're able, that's pay for play, but that goes beyond the football field. That's for the entire sports, the entire athletic department, right? NIL is still going to continue, but now they've caught recently the clearinghouse or whatever, this new clearinghouse that they put together. They just came out and said they've shot down, I can't remember the exact number, but hundreds of NIL deals now that aren't that didn't meet the structure of what it is they're looking for moving forward with an NIL deal. So I think it's in motion, right? It's in motion to change. I mean, the wheels are in motion in terms of addressing these issues. These guys getting paid. I mean, come on, man. The amount of money these guys are getting paid. I mean, it's not sustainable, right? I mean, look, good for them. Good for them. Like I'm not knocking, right? Capitalist society. Listen, man, you get paid what you're worth. I have no issue with that. But in terms of long-term feasibility and long-term survivability, I just know that I don't know that it's there, right? And so again, I think at some point, it's gonna have to change, and I think the wheels are in motion for that to change, because I think we're gonna go back really now to what the spirit of NIL was, not just pay for play.
Yeah, well, we see that with some schools, just like Texas Tech with, was it Brendan Sorley, I think is his name?
Sorsby,
yeah, who cashed in big time.
They're saying $6 million. What are they saying? $6 million for him?
Now, what people are reporting, that Ty Simpson, who declared for the draft, has been offered. Hey Pedro, thanks for tuning in. We really appreciate it. What Ty Simpson's been reported that he's being offered if he doesn't go to the NFL draft, which he can. We saw that with Cam Ward a couple years ago. If he doesn't like his slot, which probably will still be pretty darn good, because of if you're seeing the thin market at the quarterback class, especially if Dante Moore decides not to declare, which is coming up, which I think it's tomorrow for everybody not in the title.
I think to end the draft, I believe it's tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken.
For everybody not playing on Monday night would be tomorrow. So we shall see. But it is getting a little out of control. It's not getting there. But I mean, I think being a non-biased fan with the Carson Beck stuff, I think, I mean, yeah, you get what you're worth. But I mean, like Carson Beck's, he's not going to win you a game. He might lose you a game, but he's gonna, as you see, he can do enough to get his team. Now he's surrounded by phenomenal players on Miami. A kid who's one kid in name, Malachi Tony, who still should be in high school, who is a freak. This kid, 18, dominating, grown. I mean, Carson Beck's 23. He was 11 when Carson Beck started college, which is insane. But I mean, the talent. If he doesn't, it's just like, hey, he's got what he's worth. Miami thought that's what he's worth, and he's proven his worth because he got Miami to the title game and one step away from winning the national title. But going back, I know you went to the.
So let me before you move on real quick, let me tell you something real quick. So two things going back to the Ty Simpson deal. The difference with Ty Simpson is that Ty Simpson is getting first round feedback from the NFL, right? And especially in a class this year that's as weak as it is, right? Remember, going back to what we talked about, right? Oh, the 26th class is going to have Kate Klubnik and Drew Aller and Nussmeier and all these guys who are going to be generation. And what ended up happening? All those guys essentially flamed out, right? Lenore Sellers went back to school, so on and so forth, right? And so now, we pivoted from essentially a dozen, damn near can't misses to all these names. Now, nobody had Fernando Mendoza winning the Heisman, being the first pick in the draft. Nobody had Dante Moore, not really. I mean, did we have him being good? Yeah, probably, but I don't think anybody had him as a possible top 3 pick. And Ty Simpson, nobody knew who the hell Ty Simpson was outside of Tuscaloosa, Alabama before the season started, and so on and so forth, right? But the difference is when you talk about what Miami has done with, for example, Cam Ward, right, where they pulled him from the draft after he had already, he had declared he hadn't officially submitted paperwork, is that Cam Ward was projected to be somewhere between like a 4th and a 5th round pick. Carson Beck, right, you're looking at what he had going on, similar but different circumstances because of the injury. A lot of people had him in that 3rd or 4th round if he would have come out. So they've pulled some guys from the draft, which again has been good on them, right? Because they got Cam Ward to be the first pick in the draft. Carson Beck obviously has rehabilitated. He's looked really good. Ty Simpson, I know you mentioned, and I'll mention real quick, his buzz is different because it's first round, right? But you also have to weigh I've only started 12 or 13 games, and we've seen what the trajectory has been for these quarterbacks coming into the NFL that haven't started, more than 15 games. The success rate is really, really low for these guys, right? So you look at that. If you're Ty Simpson, you're looking at, okay, I go back to school, get a chance if I'm healthy to start another anywhere from 12 to 15 games if I go and play for Miami, and on top of that, get paid similarly to what I'm going to get paid in depending on where I'm taken in the first round, which more than likely you're looking at him. I can't imagine Ty Simpson is a top 10 pick, but again, who knows, quarterback needs, everybody freaks out. They trade up and reach for quarterbacks all the time. But I think Ty Simpson is in one of those positions where, again, you're looking at it and you're going, okay, if we're going to bring this guy in, you're going to have to compensate him because of what the projection is possibly for him in the draft. Now, moving on to Carson Beck, I'm going to push back on, and granted, I know the colors I'm wearing, and I know what you see on the screen behind me. I'm going to push back on Carson Beck can win you a game. Carson Beck has won a lot of games. Carson Beck isn't a passenger most of the time when these guys are winning these games. This guy's, again, granted he's had a couple games that weren't great, but when you're looking at what Carson Beck has done this year, I think we have to stop, we have to stop bad mouthing, Carson Beck. Look at that last drive against Ole Miss and what he put together, to bring them back and win that game. Big time throws, he did it with his legs, right? And so again, man, look, I get that he had a couple bad games. Trust me, I've watched damn near every throw he's made this season, right? So I get, that he hasn't been perfect necessarily, but to say that a guy like Carson Beck, man, he hasn't been responsible for the very much responsible, a big part of the equation behind the success at Miami, I think is borderline blasphemous, and I don't agree with it.
I mean, I don't think he's a success. I'm just saying he is surrounded by unbelievable talent on that offense.
He is. You know, and listen, a great O line, a great running back room, right? At tight end, you know, you know what I mean. Elijah Lofton hasn't lived up to the expectations this year, so you know, some Alex Bauman has been, you know, okay. Luka Gilbert is a true freshman. On the outside, obviously Malachi Tony, who's been the best player on the team. You know, you've got C.J. Daniels, you've got you know, Keelan Mary, and these guys have all kind of taken turns. You know, producing, you know, game to game and kind of being the leading receiver and everything. Keelan Marion was the leading receiver this past game, you know, but again, yeah, surrounded by a lot of good talent, surrounded by good coaching. When you talk about the O-line and the O-line coach in Mirabal and the OC, you know, and Shannon Dawson. So, man, it's a team effort. It's a team effort, right? I mean, I get Malachi Tony's probably the MVP of the offense, but 100% a team effort. I don't think you make it this far in the college football playoff if you don't have a great team. Right. And we talked about what it is it takes to win, you know, in college. We talk about winning a title. Listen, O-line, D-line, quarterback, cornerback. And the Canes check off all four boxes. They're good at they're good at some of those, elite at others. And that's why they're here, man. You know, and this thing about Mario Cristobal not being able to win the big game and you know, doing this, that, and the third. Listen, man, he's here. And all these coaches that we've been hyping for the longest time, especially Dan Lanning comes to mind. This guy that they've hyped to, you know, to the, you know, the ends of the earth about how great he is and the whole deal. And look at him, right? I mean, he still hasn't reached, you know, a national title game. You know, he recruits his ass off, has endless NIL money from Phil Knight and Nike, and he's still not capable of you know, making it to where Mario Cristobal has gone. So again, just like Carson Beck, I think it's time to give Mario Cristobal, you know, his flowers and his just dues for what it is he's done at Miami.
And who's actually winning over this all is Nick Saban, because the last four coaches remaining in college football this year, we're all on Nick Saban's coaching staff.
We're all at some point we're all part of Nick Saban's staff.
So,
Pedro, man, appreciate you, brother. Yeah, we try to mix it up, man. We definitely don't want to be all, you know, regurgitate all the same stuff that's been out there, man. So appreciate you hanging with us.
I see my trade, Bobby. We're gonna definitely talk about that tomorrow night, but right now we got to talk about the Indiana.
Bobby, this ain't the time for baseball news, bro. This ain't the time for.
I'm gonna hit that tomorrow. You know, I'm gonna jump on that.
But I'm glad Miami got themselves a nice haul for Ryan Weather. So I'm good with it. I'm good with it.
I mean, quick side note, a little different. We see all these you know, it's more in the NFL. You see all their coaching tree, the Parcells tree, the Belichick tree. Is Nick Saban got the best in football, obviously college football, NFL, two different, you know, not sports, but two different areas. But do you think Nick Saban's got one of the best coaching trees we've seen? I mean, Parcells' coaching tree is great, but you see what Saban's just putting it out with you know, Cristobal, with Cinetti, with Kiffin, with Lane, with Pete Golding,
Dan Lanning too, Pete Golding, yeah, man. You know, right now, obviously, you know, we're not talking NFL, right? Because you know, two different sports and the whole deal, and obviously, I mean, you've got like the Bill Walsh coaching tree, right? Guys that came from Bill Walsh, who are, you know, Hall of Fame coaches, Super Bowl winning coaches, and everything. You know, and obviously, you know, maybe not the greatest necessarily in terms of NFL coach. Bill Walsh is always going to be, you know, a top three, you know, coach all time, given what he did to revolutionize offense, a West Coast offense, and everything like that. You know, so in terms of college, I mean, is there even a pushback to Nick Saban and the coaching tree? I mean, again, the Final Four coaches, all of them, you know, coach for him. You know, you look at, you know, the guys that are out there who weren't in the Final Four, right? Mike Locksley at, you know, Maryland. You got, you know, I guess Lane Kiffin. You can, I guess, yes, Final Four, but not really. His team was there, but obviously he's a Saban disciple. You know, Billy Napier, Sark. You know, and I'm sure we're missing, you know, a whole bunch more, right? And so, you know, again, it's hard to push back on that, man. Again, in terms of the titles, in terms of, you know, the rehabilitation program that he was running for coaches, because when he got, for example, Steve Sarkisian over there, Steve Sarkisian, the luster have worn off Steve Sarkisian, right? Call it what it is, right? I understand what he's become, and I don't think he's great necessarily. I think he's good. I think he's overhyped. Given where he's been in terms of USC under Pete Carroll and now it's, you know, Texas running his own shop. but I don't think he's ever reached, you know, in terms of as of now as a head coach, he hasn't reached what I think people thought he was going to be, right? And so, but again, a guy who went to Alabama, rehabilitated his image. Lane Kiffin, you know, kind of did the same thing. We're forgetting the best coach in college football right now, Kirby Smart, came from the Saban coaching tree, right? And so again, man, when you take all that into consideration, you know, it just adds to the GOAT status when you talk about Nick Saban, man.
Yeah.
The titles, the people he's influenced, you know, what they've gone on to be, how successful his previous assistant coaches have been. I just listen, man. Everybody else is fighting for second. If we're being honest, I don't think there's anybody else, not for a long time, that you're going to be able to put to me in that realm when you're talking about first, man. I think it's, you know, I think it's the debate starts at 2. I don't think there's any debate about 1. If we're being honest.
100%. Well, obviously we missed a couple weeks. We just had some conflicts, but you flew to Dallas to the game to watch Miami play Ohio State.
I got to make it out there, man.
You got to be there in person. I mean, I'm sure it was a great environment after that pick 6 right off the bat, which knowing. And this is the one thing. My issue with the 12-team playoff last year was there was a lot of crap games. I have no issue with having more football. I just want good football. Last year we got a couple good games here there late. For the most part, minus the Rose Bowl, or the Orange Bowl there down Oregon, Texas Tech. There's been some phenomenal games, and we'll probably touch on the game, Oregon, Ole Miss, Georgia, which was probably one of the best, definitely the best game of the year. But I mean, you were in Dallas at Jerry World. What was it like? What was the environment like? I mean, you're going up against Jeremiah Smith, who's the best college football receiver in college football.
Yeah, man, it was great, man. It was awesome to be there, taking it all in. Obviously, the Canes' first time being in the college football playoff. Dallas was a place I'd been to once before. The results were different then. I went there for the season opener in 2018. It was Labor Day weekend, Miami LSU. And for those who don't remember, Miami got smoked in that game, right? And so, had a good time until the game started. The lead up to it was fun. Dallas is a fun city, but this time, got to go back. Took my daughter with me, which was really cool. She's become in the last few years a big Canes fan. She likes going to the games and everything. And so man, the stadium was amazing. That place is awesome. It was split to me right down the middle. I don't know what the official count was. At the end of it, in terms of, what the exact amount of fans and how whether it's 50-50, 51-49, whatever the case may be. But the Canes fans, to me, man, showed up, showed out, made a lot of noise, got behind the team, and obviously the Canes gave them a lot to cheer about, man. I mean, they came out and essentially dominated that game, pretty much, all the way through, with a couple of exceptions. But man, it was great to see them. It was great to see them play. I mean, they played great, right? They played a clean game, right? 0 accepted penalties. And that's been such a different. That's so different from the rest of the season, right? Where they've gotten themselves in trouble with really bad penalties. I think if you're a Miami fan, you always kind of feel like the refs are against you, right? And I hate to, to kind of revert back to that, but it's definitely been along the way this season, some just terrible calls, and the common denominator is the ACC officials. I think everybody that follows college football closely, knows what the ACC officials kind of bring to the table, man. They stay making bad calls, right? Not only for Miami, but you watch them throughout the season, different games with different teams involved, and you wonder what the hell, like, how are they paying these people to do such an important job? But again, man, great environment. The Canes played great. Met a lot of cool people. Got to take a picture with Trick Daddy, for all my for all my 30 somethings and 40 somethings, right? I grew up listening to to especially Southern rap, right? And so Trick Daddy, big, huge Canes fan. So got to meet him in the concourse seat, which is cool enough to take a picture with me and my daughter. But man, all in all, amazing, Texas Live, which is right next to Jerry World. we pre-gamed there, then we went there afterwards. They had DJ sets, and we did the countdown over there and everything. So it was a quick trip, but a really fun trip. Had a blast, and most of all, man, first and foremost, having to spend time with my daughter, which was awesome. But number two was, man, getting to see the Canes and play the way they did. The hype behind the team, the excitement with all those guys, man. It was just awesome to see.
Oh, I mean, it sounds like I saw the pictures. It looks like it was a great time. Obviously, yeah. I mean, number one is you got to go with your daughter, and she went and enjoyed the game. So she's not just like, hey, I'm gonna go hang out with dad. She went there and she's rooting for the Canes too. So that's a great thing.
She had no choice.
Yeah.
she had no choice. So you were rooting for the Canes, you're staying home. But no, she's. Yeah,
I mean, you do that. That's a great memory to make with your daughter. Yep. But I mean, the memory even gets better. The Canes won the game and beat Ohio State. And Ohio State, Miami definitely dominated that first half, putting up 14 quick. I mean, put up 7 quick right there. But I mean, Ohio State made it a game. I mean, made it there. Made it a game for 24-14. So it wasn't like it was a bad first half for a game's perspective for Hurricanes. It was a great first half. But, I mean, they made it a game. But, I mean, you basically – I mean, Jeremiah Smith, even though as great as game he had, I mean, going back, the rushing game, we're always saying – we brought it up. I was like, the running game is going to be key. Bo Jackson was 11 for 55. I mean, 19 for 90 for Mark Fletcher. I mean, Jeremiah Smith, yeah, is 7 for 157, but they weren't the massive catches. I mean, Carnell Tate got shut down 3 for 37, which I mean, you talked about Brendan Ennis, who actually 4 for 34 seemed like was that safety valve for Ohio State for Julian Sain. But I mean, that's a big one to take down. The reigning national champs to get to play. Now we know it was Ole Miss, but I mean the winner of Ole Miss Georgia, which, as we know, I was probably the best game we've seen all year, in my opinion.
Yeah, listen, man, the brand, first and foremost, touching on the Miami Ohio State game, man. A game that I was definitely nervous about, right? A game when you looked at the matchups. Yeah, at the matchups, and we had the words that I was hearing people throw around with Ohio State, man. It was, they're generational, and you looked at coming into the game, they were giving up 8.5 points a game, and they were just shutting people down. I mean, so on and so forth, right? And they had how many defenders they had, I think, in the top first round for sure, right? You talk about Caleb Downs, and you had Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles, and all these guys that they were talking about are going to be first round picks, and Miami hasn't played this on the third, and look at what happened, man. They ran the ball down their throats, right? They imposed their will, and as the game went on, man, it got a lot easier to run the ball, right? On offense and on defense, they were smacking those dudes, right? Carnell Tate got alligator arms one time and got buried. Jeremiah Smith, did his thing, but it was all for none, right? I mean, he was really the only one that on offense that really showed up. And then Bo Jackson got shut down and everything. So, again, man, just all around a great performance.
And this will be a different, sports reference, but when I think Jeremiah Smith, and it's a lot of NFL receivers too, but like when I think of Kevin Durant, I'm like, you're not going to shut him down. I'm sorry. You're not shutting down Kevin Durant. I mean, if you can contain him, you win. But I mean, Miami went in that game. I was like, hey, get your thing. He did his thing. He had 157. We'll shut down everybody else. You're not going to beat us single-handedly. And they definitely disrupted. Julian Sain was under pressure the majority of the game. The defense is nasty. I mean, he scored 24 points. I mean, on that D line, not to mention Arvell Reese is a bunch of NFL talent.
Yeah, man. Caden Curry, you know,
yeah,
what's their D tackle? Was it Copeland? Copeland, I think is his last name. He's going to be a first round pick.
yeah,
You know, again, Arba Reese, Sonny Styles, Caleb Down. I mean, dude, all over the field, you have NFL guys, and you know, especially first round picks, right? And so again, man, I heard generational. I must have heard the word generational, you know, for that defense leading up to that game 50 times, right? And I'm like, man, you know, like, I guess the Canes might as well not even show up, man, you know, because the Ohio State's got a generational, you know, even the best defense, you know, ever to step on a football field. And it's like, all right, man. You know,
I'm interested
we'll
to see how Ohio State rebounds from this next year. Yes, they lose a lot of defensive players, but they lose a lot of defensive players every year. That's really not
they reload.
I mean,
you
lose Parnell Tate, but you're getting Jeremiah Smith with another year under his belt. You're getting Julian Sane with another year. You're getting Jeremiah Smith back. I don't think he's going to sit out. Even he'll be, depending who's there next year, he'll be a top 5 pick. He probably won't be 1 because it's a generational 27 class now for the quarterback. But I mean, I would want to see how they rebound. But I mean, that was a great win. You take down number 2 for Miami, and they move on. But going into that Ole Miss Georgia game, I mean, unbelievable game. I mean, I did not see Ole Miss winning that, but I mean, Georgia has an unbelievable second half, putting up 21 in the second half, but they basically go silent. And in the third quarter, 3 points. Trinidad Chambliss, you know, they put up 7 in the third, 20 in the fourth quarter. I mean, first off, hats off to Pete Golding for what happened at Ole Miss with losing your coach to a rival, and your team stays focused to play these games, and 1 or 2 plays away from being in the national title game. I mean, that game could have gone either way. They were right there for the coaching job with that he did to keep his guys focused after what happened at Ole Miss with your coach leaving to go to LSU, to keep those guys focused, to do what he did, and to take down Georgia. First off, thoughts. I mean, I thought that was one of the greatest games I saw. We definitely had a lot of great games, you know, this year, this playoff so far. But what were your thoughts of that game?
I mean, the first and foremost, man, you talk about the playoffs. I mean, again, great games, like you mentioned. I mean, there's been, you know, no shortage of excitement, no shortage of you know, back and forth and league changes and everything like that. I mean, just it's been really, really fun, you know, playoffs so far. Man, in terms of that game, you know, again, right, kind of the same, right? Game super exciting. That second half was nuts. You know, I don't think many people had, including me. I not that I didn't think Ole Miss had a chance. That, you know, obviously, you know, they did. You know, my thing was I just didn't see them winning the game. Right? You talk about everything they had gone through, you know, ever since ever since Lane Kiffin had left, right, and you know, the position that he put him in, right, you know, all the back and forth in terms of the are the coaches going, are the coaches staying, how long are they going to be able to stay, which one of them are going to be able to stay, you know, so on and so forth, right? And so, you know, you definitely hats off to him, man. Hats off to you know, the coaches who stayed, you know, the prep, you know, and the way those players prepared, the leadership of the team, right, man, because it takes strong leadership, obviously, to get through something like that, right? And so, you know, hats off to them, man. I mean, again, I don't think many people had them, you know, beating Georgia. I certainly didn't. I thought Georgia would. I thought it would be a good game. Not that I didn't think they couldn't win. I just didn't think that they'd be in a position to win. And you know, they pulled that out. You know, and they you know, they definitely could have won the game against Miami. It was a hell of a game. You know, Trinidad Chambliss, you know, the run that he had in the playoffs was incredible, right? And you know, again, you know, as a Kings fan watching that you know, that game against Ole Miss, and you know, just thinking, man, here we go, right? I mean, you go down with, you know, however long it was in the fourth quarter, you know, six-ish minutes, and you know, and drive down the field and win that game, and especially the way they did it, right? They didn't do the we're gonna, you know, kick a field goal and go forward. I mean, they you know, they put up 7 and won the game. But man, a hell of a game on both sides of the ball, right? I think hats off to both teams, man. I think both of them, showed up. Both of them played well, made it an exciting game. And, the much maligned, Carson Beck, man, drives his team down the field and a bunch of clutch plays and they end up winning that game, man. So obviously as a Canes fan, super excited. But as a fan of college football, man, again, I don't think you could have asked for anything better when you consider the games that have happened to this point, in the playoff.
Well, you can tell right now where Q's allegiance lies because we're talking about the Ole Miss Georgia game, and he goes straight to the Canes. But I mean, I want to ask you a question, Q. We've seen a lot of reports with Trinidad Chambliss, right? Is he going back? Is he getting denied? Everybody puts out, oh, they're getting. I've seen stuff. Oh, he's getting his sixth year. I've seen stuff said they've denied it. I don't believe anything until I actually, see it on a legit website. But if he does get that denied, do you think that Georgia game? I don't see him as a first-round pick, but do you think what he's done in the playoffs, especially against Georgia, and what he did against Miami? Now he did have a couple bad passes that Miami could have really changed that game and made it not as close as they did. But do you think he put himself in a second or a third round conversation for an NFL draft with that game against Georgia?
Man, listen, like we talked about at the top of the show, man, with quarterbacks, the rules and the rules and what should happen, right, kind of go out the window, man. People reach for quarterbacks all the time. And I think a guy like Trinidad Chambliss, depending on how he, what he measures like, right, when he goes to the underwear Olympics known as the NFL Combine, that'll go a long way into what people may think about him. But I think he's a guy who now, given what he's done, in the playoff and everything. I mean, listen, what we thought would be the draft class at quarterback has essentially, dissolved, right? I mean, has totally fallen apart, right? I mean, again, we talked about, right? There was a list of 10 to 12 quarterbacks that people assumed.
The one name they brought up was like, oh, we're going off this guy because he's the greatest thing we ever saw. I'm like, let's see him actually play in Arch Manning. Arch does the small things. I mean, that was I've almost got an argument like, oh, Arch Manning's my number one. I'm like, let's see him play some football games before we crown him the greatest quarterback we got.
He had a good second half of the season, right? I mean, he definitely got things on track. First half of the season was a little bit rough, right? And that kind of coincided with Texas not looking great. But again, man, it was a draft class, in terms of the quarterback position that we had certain names pegged for the first round. I think everybody safely assumed anywhere from 8 to 12 quarterbacks that were going to come out this year. That everybody assumed we're going to have great final seasons in college and their teams were going to be really successful, and all that just crashed and burned, right? And so now we're looking at a quarterback draft class of Fernando Mendoza, right? Which again you assume with them they just landed this kid Josh Hoover was a transfer from TCU. I think you can safely assume Fernando Mendoza was going to enter the draft, right? Then you look at Dante Moore at Oregon, they just landed Dominic Raiola. I can't imagine Dominic Raiola would commit there if he didn't have the expectation that Dante Moore was going to leave and he was going to start, right? So again, if you're looking at it through that lens, we're assuming that Mendoza and Dante Moore are entering the draft, and then after that, man, I mean, it really is. It's kind of a crapshoot, right? Because you don't know. Again, even though Dante Moore is not official, right? We don't know that Ty Simpson is officially entering the draft, right? And even if he does, after that, what are you looking at? I mean, what's your QB draft class look like, right? So when you're looking at it that way, I think a guy like Trinidad Chambliss, given what he's done, even though some of that was at Division II Ferris State. I mean, he's a guy who's he won two national championships at Ferris State. A guy who tore through, his schedule in the SEC when he got the chance to start, and look at what he's done against the best teams, in the country and in the playoffs. And so again, man, given that situation, given the way he can throw the ball, because that kid can throw the damn ball, right? I mean, he's got a big arm for somebody his size. He's not a big guy. He moves well. listen, man, all it takes is one team, right? And so even if he doesn't, I don't expect him to be able to go back to college. I mean, he's gotten denied twice. There's one time he got denied, and then they told him verbally like he wasn't going to get a sixth year. And then the second time around, they went through like the actual process and submitted paperwork. NCAA wasn't buying the medical paperwork that they submitted. And so again, he's been denied twice. I don't see why they would go back on that. If he tries to, they said they were going to challenge it and do something with it. I don't see that happening. So I see him having to enter the draft. And again, I think if he does,
Ole Miss is going to sue the NCAA.
Yeah, and that's fine. They can. I don't see it changing anything.
I mean, I think he's definitely put himself in the second round conversation, especially who wouldn't want to take. I mean, if you're in the second round, you're taking flyers on a quarterback, anyways. I think what he did, and I mean, I get it, it's at a D2, but this guy's got a lot of. If we're talking about like we brought about earlier, not quarterbacks not succeeding with not a lot of games under the belt, he's got a lot of games under his belt now. I mean, he played 14 at the Division I level, but he was playing competitive football at the D2 level, which has put out players. I mean, Adam Thielens from Division II Minnesota State Mankato.
Yeah.
I mean, so he's got games under his belt.
I think at this point, man, the small school deal with him, I think that's gone out the window when you see the way he's performed. And then not only that, but he performed his best in the biggest games against the best teams, right? And so you have to take that into consideration.
And Cam Ward was from a small school, an FCS school, and he ended up being the number one pick.
Yeah. Yeah, he had more time at the FBS level, but 100%. I mean, he went from Incarnate Word to Washington State, and then Washington State. He spent 2 years at Washington State, and before going to Miami. So more time at the FBS level, right, than Trinidad Shambles. But again, man, I think it all goes back to the weak, draft class at quarterback, right? And a class that becomes even weaker if Ty Simpson decides to not enter his name in the draft, right? Then or Dante Moore, right? So there's no guarantee there, right? So that would be to his benefit if those guys stay in school. Even though, again, I don't think Dante Moore, goes back to school. But again, there's from everything that I've seen out there, from everything they're reporting, Ty Simpson, there's no guarantee that he enters the draft, right? And so, if he doesn't, Trinidad Shambles becomes the third best quarterback in the draft, and that right there, could get you taken in back end of the first round or top end of the second round, right? And so that would be amazing for somebody like him. Hell of a trajectory given that he wasn't even the starter at Ole Miss starting this year. It was Austin Simmons. He took Austin Simmons got hurt, and they inserted him, and he never looked back, right? And neither did the team. So again, man, I think you have to give him credit, and I think. Come draft time, man, I think you'll see what people think of him. People have shown now recently, man, you look at, Tua, you look at Bryce Young, all these guys, I mean, they're not big guys, right? They aren't big dudes, right? And Trinidad Shambles has a better arm than the both of them, moves better than both of them, right? And so, again, what's that?
Baker Mayfield ain't a big dude.
Baker Mayfield's not a big guy, right? And so, again, man, the days of having to be, 6'3" and a cannon for an arm to be an NFL quarterback, man, those days are gone, right? So, again, do I think he's going to be a top 10 pick? No. But would it shock me, if somebody, kind of like they did with Lamar, when he got drafted, right, at 32, take him, right, somewhere 30 or 32. And because, again, when you talk about, a contender, for example, taking that guy and kind of letting him sit for – for a couple of years, given the money that a number 30 pick in the first round, is going to get. Like, I don't think that's a huge risk to take. If you're a contender and you believe in your development and in the whole deal, I don't think that's a big swing to take. Given the money you have to dedicate to him. So again, nothing would surprise me with him entering the draft. Nothing would surprise me, if him entering the draft and him getting taken and end of the first round or top of the second round, I wouldn't be remotely shocked by that.
Yeah. Well, Anthony, I do want to say, even if it is coming from Indiana fans talking trash, they're allowed to talk trash, all right? Indiana hasn't had a football program since like 1958 do anything. So let Indiana fans, even if they're talking a little trash, they're probably just jacked up out of their mind. I mean, they haven't done anything in 50. I mean, the New York Jets were winning Super Bowls when Indiana Hoosiers were winning before, won a Super Bowl after they won their Big Ten title. So I mean, I don't know if Indiana fans are if they are, rightfully so. They're the best team in college.
They look. I've been on Twitter and the whole deal. Those guys are talking a lot of trash, man. They are talking hella trash, and again, I find it funny.
Rightfully
right,
so. Hey, they're the best team in college football.
Well, they might be.
As of now, they're the best team, right? Now,
they might. They are the number one ranked team. Yes, they are. Are they the best team? Well, we're going to find out in less than a week. We're going to find out in less than a week when they come down to Miami. So we'll see. But listen, their fans have been talking real reckless. They've been talking real
reckless. So it's not like
reckless.
Both ways, Q. Come on.
Look. Listen. I have not seen. I've seen Miami fans answering. I've seen very few Miami fans initiating the trash talk online based on what I've seen. But hey, talk all the trash you want, man. You're undefeated. We're in the title game. We'll see.
We'll continue. We had that great game on New Year's Eve. Unbelievable game. New Year's Day was pretty much a crapshoot when you had Indiana just basically end the game in the first quarter, 38-3 at the Rose Bowl against Alabama. Oregon in the morning, very boring game, won 23-0. Not much to talk on either side, in my opinion. I watched the full Oregon game. I was bored out of my mind. It was not very exciting. If you're an Indiana fan, the Rose Bowl was probably a very exciting game.
There was nothing exciting about that. Did you think it was a great game if you're an Indiana fan? Yeah.
Yes,
it wasn't a fun game to watch.
If I was Miami, yeah. I mean, as an Indiana fan, they were like, "That's a great game," but it was a terrible game. Ty Simpson get knocked out. I mean, to see Fernando Mendoza, what he does, 14 for only 192, 3 touchdowns, but 14 for 16. But we go to January 8th. Which leading up, you say Ole Miss, Georgia, one of the best games we saw. And then we put down they put another great performance with the Ole Miss Miami game, where, if you watch the first quarter of that game, Miami is just, Ole Miss looks overmatched. The offensive line can't handle this defensive line. They can't handle the front seven, Trinidad and Chambliss. But Ole Miss makes it the game. Now, Miami pulls it out. It could have gone either way. And I did, did talk a little smack on Carson Beck. He did have the game-winning touchdown. Can't really throw a deep ball to save his life, but, he did have the game-winning touchdown. So, good.
He threw like a 60-yard touchdown pass.
Well, you make the throw, Carson.
Just FYI. Just,
you got to make that throw on the dime. Mark Fletcher.
Just FYI. But anyway.
133 on the ground. Malachi Tony, who had that massive screen for a touchdown, who I have no clue how he got through everybody, but found a way to navigate the whole defense and score. Trinidad and Chambliss, 23 for 37, 277, did have some throws that Miami could have really swung the game in their favor on some dropped interceptions, some questionable decision-making definitely on Chambliss's part that could have definitely changed the game and not made it as close. I think the one key I saw for Ole Miss, definitely, I did lose money on that game, but I did get my money back. I did make money on Ole Miss. On Miami, Ohio State. I wish I bet Miami money line, but I did take Miami with the points and Miami over. It was 14.5 points to score, Q. And then I had over 38. I put it down a little bit. But when I saw Miami scoring 14.5, I was like, over, check. 14.5 points. You're saying they're going to score I mean, two touchdowns and a field goal. I was like, that's money in the hand. So, but this game I did have Ole Miss, but it's fine. I got my bonus bet back, and I'm taking advice on anybody who's got some bets for my bonus bet. I got to put in by the 15th for the national title game, because I'm saving it for that game, of course, because I don't want to be wasting it on the NFL. I want to bet on the college football playoffs. Yep. But I mean, I think the one key, and we saw it early with who went down with Ole Miss, is we saw what Keywan Lacey did, and when he kind of pulled up after that great touchdown with the hamstring injury, definitely changed the balance of the game. If Lacey could have gone and been at his potential, what do you think on that?
Yeah, I mean that touchdown run was definitely kind of a punch in the gut. When it did happen, the rest of the game, I mean they kind of they held them right to to a really low total. You take away that, was it 65, 70 yards or whatever it was. I mean the rest of the game they didn't do much on the ground. Yeah, listen, man. That's how it goes, right? I mean, you talk about Keywan Lacey being probably the top 3 running back in the country. He was a Doak Walker finalist. A guy who's a stud. He was a guy who I was definitely worried about, going into the game. But I also trust in Miami's run defense and the way they bottled everybody up, coming into that game. You look at Texas A&M's running back room. A bunch of talented guys, right? And then you look at, essentially kind of everybody else, they played, Ohio State, Bo Jackson, really talented true freshman, Julian Saint, obviously not a super mobile guy, but, nonetheless, I mean, Ohio State, talented guys back there too, and running behind a really talented offensive line, I might add. So, they faced, really good offensive lines, all the way through, and they whooped everybody, on the line of scrimmage, right? And so, you look at, now Ole Miss, and listen, man, again, a guy who I was worried about. Obviously, you don't root for anybody to be injured, but at the same time, I mean, listen, Miami's had guys go down too, and they've replaced them, and it's the next man up mentality, man. You replace them and you keep it moving. So, again, all in all, if we're being honest, I think Miami made that game, probably closer than it needed to be. You look at the penalties. That's one of the things they have to really, mind, going into the Indiana game. But, you look at some of the dumb penalties. You look at I counted 4 very easy dropped interceptions. And so, again, I think that game, you look at, listen, man, they have 41 minutes time of possession, 41 minutes, yeah. Right? And so, if that's not dominating the game, I don't know what is, right? I think that they made that game. I don't think that game was as close as it really looked like come kind of end of the game. That was a game that they should have had way more in control. But listen, credit to Ole Miss for staying in it, fighting, for being explosive, keeping that game close. But at the end of the day, man, that was the other thing too. Thanks, Juan Manuel, for that for that comment right there. Then you add to that there was over 20 players from Miami playing with the flu, including Mark Fletcher and some other important guys. And so, again, man, the fact that game was as close as it was in terms of the final score, I think it's a little bit misleading. I think Miami, by and large, I think they were the better team. I just think the penalties and some of the mistakes that they made, I think kind of made that game closer than they needed to be. But I think the better team won that game.
Juan, I see your comment. Yes, he did play, but he wasn't up to.
Yeah, he did come back.
Definitely was not to the player.
Yeah, he came back. He came back. But I think at that point, I don't think he was the same guy.
And
again, I think it was a hamstring.
I do think the portal needs to change. The Abella Danger stuff is. I don't pay attention to that. So on the PI, I think on that last minute pass interference non-call. If you look back, I do think it was PI. I get it; they don't want to call it. Okay, I do like the way Pete Golden handled it. It was like, hey, yes, they could have made that call, but there's a lot of other factors that is the reason we didn't win the game.
Also, on that same play, Mesidor got mugged, and it was holding, and they didn't call it, right? So, again, I mean, we can pick and choose, which plays, get flagged and which don't. And again, if you can make the case, I guess, if you want to, with that being, pass interference in the end zone, like you mentioned, man, that's not a call that's going to get made. And it's not the NFL. Even if that call gets made, the ball goes up to like the 20-yard line or something like that. You still have to score the last second, as there's no guarantee that it's going to happen. There's no guarantee that it's not going to happen, right? But again, there was a lot. Man, I saw many plays in that game where Mesidor and Bain were getting held. I mean, literally on that play right there, I'm pretty sure it was where Bain, literally got mugged, and there was no call, right? So, again, that's been happening all year to those guys, and the Miami fans have been beating that drum the entire season. How it is that those guys get mugged, they get held all the time, and it doesn't get called. So,
well, you brought up Mesidor, and they're definitely, definitely going to have to clean it up, and we'll talk about that just in a little bit. But his hit on Trinidad Chambliss, he didn't just hit him, literally his hands up. He's like, I'm going to clothesline this guy. But on that point, I was mad. The next day, we go to the Indiana-Oregon game. I'm like, yes, we're going to get two good games here. And Indiana just absolutely shellacks Oregon the next on the 7th. And just no game whatsoever, right off the bat, 56-22.
Yeah, that game was over really before it ever got started, man. Bad. Dante Moore, not at all, a good game. Obviously, some big time mistakes. Oregon was down. They were converting safeties and linebackers to running back and everything before the game, and so. Again, man, between the mistakes, between the injuries at running back, I think it was just hard for them to really win that game.
Fernando Mendoza, 17 for 20. I'm a Jets fan, so I saw some of those back shoulder passes he's making, and I'm like, if I wasn't sold on Fernando Mendoza, I am now. I was sold on him after I saw what he did in the Big 10 title game and what he did against Alabama. But some of those back shoulder throws he was making, which are 45-yard throws, they're not easy throws. And he's making those back shoulder passes on a dime. He was 17 for 20, 177, 5 touchdowns. Obviously didn't have to throw a lot that game because their defense, and they were up so big early in that game, especially, right off the bat, you go 7-0. But yeah, Oregon, yes, they're down to converting linebackers. They're down, running backs leaving from the portal. I think they're on like running back who had like 4. One of the running backs had 4 carries on the year.
Yeah, he's a transfer from like Southwest Missouri State or something like that. He's a guy that knocked the ball out of. I don't know if he knocked the ball out of Dante Moore's hand. Dante Moore ran into him on his as he was going backwards to the ball. Yeah. I think the running back was just kind of in the wrong position. I don't know if he didn't bail out of there maybe as quick as Dante Moore was expecting to.
Quickly, Juan brought up a point in that Ole Miss Miami game. What was your opinion? And I, being a football fan, of the two targeting calls that they called, and the one Miami guy who got kicked out, and the Ole Miss guy who they picked it up.
Listen, I think the easy answer, right? If you're wearing Miami clothes, man, is always going to be, the refs, kind of screwed us on that one. But man, dude, you look at the 2 penalties. I don't understand how you justify reversing one and upholding the other one. I don't get it. I think you look around and I was, getting on, I got on Twitter after the game, and you look around at, it wasn't just Miami people complaining about that call. I was, I saw like David Pollack comment on it, and I saw, a bunch of, people without skin in the game, mention how bad a call that was. And, I don't understand how you uphold that one, but yet you reverse, the other one. Right. And so, again, you just kind of go back to, it's the refs being refs when it comes to Miami. And again, I think it was a terrible call. I don't think that call should have been upheld. And, now because of that, now he's going to miss the first half of the title game, right? And so, again, I think I just think it was a bad call. And
Well, did
hopefully
you
it
think
doesn't
the
cost
first
Miami.
did well? Let me ask you: did you think the one on the Ole Miss player should have been picked up, or you think that's penalty? Because I mean, he hit him with the side of the helmet. He didn't launch at him at all. I mean, did you think that one was targeted?
I'll be honest with you. I think that was more targeting than the one against Xavier Lucas. I mean, that's my opinion, right? I think that was more enforceable than the one against Xavier Lucas, right? And again, maybe I'm being a homer, but again, man, that's what we're talking about, Anthony. Look, man, I can't explain it because I'm right there with you. I don't understand how you enforce one and not the other.
I watched Miami one over. I did not think I thought I gotta watch the Miami one over again. I did not think it was targeting.
I didn't. I don't think it was either, man.
I don't think either were targeting. Honestly,
yeah.
I mean,
To enforce that, man, to review that and leave it there and have the guy kicked out of the game, I just think that's terrible, man.
The Ole Miss's guy, he's literally full on sprint. I mean, if you played sport, try to stop full on. Yeah. You're going full tilt. Try to stop. He hit him with the side of the helmet. He didn't go anywhere. He didn't jump at him. So I get that. I mean, unless it's here, I'm lowering my head to knock you out. Yeah. That's my opinion to targeting. Yeah. I'm lowering the crown of my helmet to hit you. I hit you with my fucking face mask. That's not targeting. They did it in the LSU Clemson game, in the national title game, and it was like one of their key linebackers, and he hit him like right here, and they kicked him out of the game. I'm like, that's not targeting. Targeting is I'm lowering my head and hitting you at the crown of the helmet.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I'm right there with you, man. I definitely did not agree with it. I'm right there with you, Juan Manuel, man. I think, again, man, listen, if you're being consistent across the board, then nobody can complain, right? But I think that's what we've been complaining about the whole season, right? Just a lack of consistency, right? You're looking at what it is they get called for, right, in terms of holding, right? And then what doesn't get called, when Bain and Mesidor get held, right? The pass interferences that get called on Miami and don't get called on us when our guys interfered with it. Like there was plenty of PIs that weren't called, on other teams that, that were interfering with Miami receivers. And so, again, man, the biggest thing is, man, just again, the lack of consistency, is I think the most frustrating part when you're talking about referees.
Consistently bad. That's,
Well, yeah, but the thing is, if you're being bad for both teams, right? Not if you're terrible calls or favoring one team, right?
I will say Miami does, and I'm gonna bring this up. I think we're harping on those. Miami, a great win. Hats off. I know I texted you after the game. You were busy, so I understand. But I gave you, congrats. Congrats for Miami. I mean, they put a hell of a game together, and I'm expecting another great game coming up here in Hard Rock. Which, if you saw the ACC, which you can't say much good thing about the ACC, because I know you hate the ACC, but all $20 million of the money that they've made is going to Miami, and they're getting an additional $3 million for this game for travel expenses. Yeah, they don't have to travel. I don't know how far Coral Gables is, but it can't be over an hour and a half.
No, I mean that's from Coral Gables to Miami Gardens, man. You're looking at, it's probably it's probably about a 35, 40-minute drive, maybe point A to point B. But they're staying. They're not changing anything about their game day prep. Obviously, but they're still practicing at Green Tree. I would imagine they're all going home, whether at their dorms or anybody who lives off campus. I mean, nothing changes in terms of a home game, right? So I think that's a benefit. They're gonna stay in they're getting the visitors locker room at Hard Rock. So literally nothing is gonna change for them. This game in terms of of the home game feel to it. So again, man, I think that they've got a lot to like. About Monday coming up, and I think a lot of people are sleeping on them. Which again, man, they should be used to it because nobody thought they were going to beat A&M. Nobody thought they were going to beat Ohio State. I think very few people. I think more 50-50 when it came to Ole Miss. I think I saw a lot of people picking Miami, so I can't say nobody believed in them. But here we are again, man. Underdogs again, and nobody thinking that nobody believing outside of Miami that they're going to win. So again, man, Indiana's going to have to show up on Monday and show everybody that they're the best team.
Speaking of penalty, because you can't blame the refs for every single penalty. I know you want to, and I'm in it. I love football too. When it's my team, I want to blame the refs, but you can't blame the refs for everything. But speaking of two different sides, if we're speaking about Miami, whatever side you're on paper, they are looking a little undisciplined. In that Ole Miss game, you can say what you want. On paper, it was undisciplined. You go to the Indiana game, they average on defense 4.7 penalties per game, which is at 39.6 yards per game. So you're really going to – Miami's – whatever you want to say, and I might get some slack for this. I do not care. This is a Miami Dolphins network. I'm a New York football Jets fan. I'm on here taking it every time I go on any other show besides this one and my baseball show. I'm getting it from 6 ways to Sunday. And I don't care. Send it to me. I'll send it back. I don't care. But if we're going into that, Miami's going to really have to clean up their game, because if you go to the other side, Indiana is a technically sound team that doesn't make those big mistakes.
Yeah. Listen, if they do what they did against Ole Miss, they're going to get beat, right? In terms of being undisciplined, right? And Indiana's they're an old team, right? I think that's something that a lot of people have been touching on here recently. I mean, those guys are all damn 23, 24, 25 years old, right? I mean, they're old guys when you talk about college football, and I think along with that comes comes discipline, right? They're not the. I don't think on paper they're a more talented team than Miami, but they're a really veteran team. These are guys that a lot of them have transferred 2 and 3 times. And again, they're guys that have played a lot of football, and along with that comes comes discipline, right? And I think if you're Miami, you can't beat yourself in terms of penalties. Because if you give those guys short fields, and if you give extend drives for them, and you give them short fields, they showed against Oregon, man. Listen, they had, like, I understand what Indiana did, but you look at 4 of their scoring drives totaled 31 yards. 4 scoring drives totaled 31 yards, right? What does that mean? That means they're turning the ball over and on their own side of the field, giving Indiana short fields. And if they're a team that's explosive, man, they make you pay, right? And so again, I don't know that Oregon was ever really going to win that game, but they definitely made it a lot easier for Indiana to win that game, given the mistakes that they made. And so I think if you're Miami, you have to really try and tap back into whatever worked for you against Ohio State, when you again 0 accepted penalties, and you played a really clean game, didn't turn the ball over, didn't commit penalties, played really smart, and didn't allow Ohio State to extend drives, give them cheap first downs and everything. And so, again, man, against Indiana, if you're constantly committing penalties, you allow them to extend drives, they're going to make you pay the price, right? And so, I'm really interested to see how they line up on the line of scrimmage, because I've been hearing for ever since this game got made that Miami, what they've done to everybody else, are not going to be able to do to Indiana, and I disagree. If you're looking at just measurables, I think Miami's O-line has Indiana's D-line by, I think, an average of like 60 pounds or something like that, right? And so, again, everybody's, I think the line is up to 8.5 now. I think that's so disrespectful. Miami hasn't lost a game by that much in like over 2 years, right? And so, there again, man, I'm hearing so much of this, Indiana possibly the best team ever in the whole deal. Okay. I guess we'll see.
I mean, I'm going to bring up, and I agree with you. I think Miami has more NFL talent on the field. Indiana's defense And you saw it against Oregon. You saw it against Alabama. Indiana's defense is ranked number 2 nationally in almost every, in the top 5 nationally in everything. And that's, one of the reasons they're so good, because their defense is great. I mean, what was it? Their leading rusher, Roman Hemby, is from JMU. So, like we saw with Trinidad Chambliss, who's, yes, a little different because he came from a D2 Ferris State, but you're seeing, hey, these small school guys, they can compete if given the right opportunity. I also want a 5-star, 3-star, whatever. They got no 5 stars on that Indiana team. No 5 stars.
Yeah, it's a pure portal team. I mean,
Yeah.
who they've taken. If you look at everybody there, everybody is a transfer. So
I mean, and also, are we seeing nowadays? Are we seeing a shift in the quarterback play in quarterbacks in college football? Because we're seeing 2 years. This is the second year of the college football playoff. Year 1 was 5th-year starter Riley Leonard versus the Ohio State quarterback.
Riley Leonard, Will Howard. And now we're seeing 5th-year starter Fernando Mendoza versus what, 6-year. I wouldn't say 5th-year starter. I don't know Fernando Mendoza's Cal, how many years he started at Cal, but 5 years. He started 2 years at Cal.
5 years in college football, and 6 years in college football for Carson Beck. Are we seeing a little change in college football now? Now it's more about experience.
Yeah, at the quarterback position, yeah. I mean, if you're looking at, I think it was 13 quarterbacks that I drafted last year. Only one of them wasn't a transfer, which was the kid from Alabama. I forget his name, man. The kid that Seattle drafted, who was a starter for Alabama last year.
Jalen Milroe.
Jalen Milroe was the only one of the 13 quarterbacks drafted last year that wasn't a transfer. And if you're looking around this year at everybody starting, I mean, let's say just start with the Final Four. Trinidad Chambliss, transfer. You're looking at Dante Moore, transfer. Fernando Mendoza, transfer. Carson Beck, transfer. Keep going, right? Texas Tech, they had a transfer. A&M, they didn't have. Marcel Reed was he originally committed to Texas A&M. But by and large, I mean, that's what you're looking at, man. There's a growing sentiment that you don't want to spend a lot of money, with quarterbacks coming out of high school because of their propensity, to transfer, right? And and so, again, I think Nick Saban said it best, right? It's not about paying guys, it's about paying the right guys, right? And I think you look at Indiana. Indiana has paid the right guys. They've identified. They've done a great job in identifying guys that fit their system, guys that are experienced and intelligent guys that take to coaching or don't make mistakes. And they built a really good college team, right? And so again, man, the transfer portal is it can be your best friend, or it can be your worst enemy, kind of like Florida State has done, right? They hit the jackpot 1 year, but by and large they've missed, because they've overpaid and paid the wrong guys in the portal. So I think there's that the two ends of the spectrum when you're looking at a team like Indiana, when you're looking at a team like Florida State. Indiana lives by the portal but has succeeded, and Florida State has lived and died by the portal because they're not recruiting high school, really well. And the portal, they've depended on the portal, but they paid the wrong guys, right? And so, again, man, it's there, right? Miami has benefited from the portal too. When you're looking at what they've done, especially with at the DB position, at the linebacker position. I mean, all those guys are transferred, right? And so, you take your hats off to them. Again, they identify the right people. And they pay the right people, and they build a really good team. I know Juan Manuel. I know the stuff he's talking about, man. Yeah, I've read some of the same stuff that people are talking about. They've, listen, man. I think that's a lot. That's a lot to get into, man. I mean, I'm not really going to do that. For whoever wants to take that and put any stock in it, man. I'm not sure. If they have another University of Michigan, was it Stallions or whatever the hell his name is.
Yeah.
You know, going on. I have no idea. I don't know how true or not that is. I think people have speculated on that. I'm not worried about it. I don't think
I have
the
put
Miami coaches are either. Yeah. So
0% of my time into that.
yeah, I'm not gonna do that, man. You know, again, if they have done that, then hopefully, you know, they pay the price. But I'm not really gonna lose sleep on that. I don't think the Miami coaches are either. You know, again, I just think they're really good, man. They're really good, and I think a lot of it is, again, when you look at the average age of those guys in that roster, man, they're an old team. They're an old team. They got a ton of guys between the ages of 23 and 25. You know, don't know that we ever seen that before, not to this extent. And you know, they just built a good veteran, tough team that is disciplined, that doesn't beat themselves, and they have, you know, an elite quarterback, you know, at the college, you know, at the college level. So, you know, again, really good receivers. They can run the ball. You know, the defense gets after the quarterback, right? So, I mean, they do everything right. You know, again, do I think they're the best team ever assembled or anything like that? No, I think they've looked very ordinary on multiple occasions this year. You look at the Penn State game, the Iowa game. You know, those games, you know, kind of come to mind. They didn't. I mean, look at if you're talking about common opponent with Miami. I mean, who looked better against Ohio State, right? Miami did, right? And so, you know, there again, we'll see, man. We'll see. You know, like I said, there's a lot of people talking about how Miami doesn't have a chance, but you know, like I guess we'll see on Monday.
I'm not of the opinion it's going to be a blowout. I think this is going to be a great game. They're both, you know, there for a reason. Yes, Indiana's had some closer games. I 8.5, and it's going up now. I think, you know, will I bet on this game? Yes, I will. I'm still deciding what I do, but I don't see Miami losing.
Miami in the points, my friend. Miami in the points. No, that's my recommendation.
You know, I gotta think it, but I might be taking 8.5. If it gets to 9.5, I'm gonna jump at it because that's free money.
I have a hard time believing that's going to jump more than it is now. It's already jumped 1 point. It went from 7.5 to 8.5.
Yeah,
I don't see it jumping any more than that, man.
I mean, yeah, on the Kurt Zanetti thing, I put zero stock in anything. Kurt Zanetti doing an unbelievable job coaching from you know, JMU to what he did now. He's doing it in Indiana. Yeah, and yes, the transfer portal is a free for all. It's free agency. But if you don't identify the right guys for your system, Fernando Mendoza is a guy who fits Kurt Zanetti's system to a T. He identified the right guys. If you don't identify the right guys, it could suck. I mean, what did Nick Saban say? You spend $20 million, you don't win it all, you're shit out of luck. So, I mean, but he identified the right guys, and they're in position. 8.5 for a national title game. I don't think this is going to be a Georgia TCU type of game. I think it's going to be a very close game. Two great defenses going on. Fernando Mendoza, I know there's been a lot of talk in the NFL about you don't want to go to the Jets, but I don't know why we don't say that about the Raiders, who the Raiders were actually trying to compete and win this year and had the worst team in football. But I guess you got
God, they were so. Geno Smith looked lost.
The Jets weren't really trying after a while, but I'll throw that out. And we do have like 7 first-round picks in the next, 5. Excuse me.
Because of Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner trade.
Yeah, and I guess Tom Brady has that much pull that he's going to make the Raiders are that great. I will say, I think Mendoza goes 1, but miraculously, say Dante Moore comes out in his measurables because everybody says, the way the ball jumps, he goes 1. For anybody to go 1 to Las Vegas or New York to be successful would be Fernando Mendoza.
Listen, I think he's the best equipped, right? And I think I've seen the argument for people, talking about like, oh, Dante Moore. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't see this special, quarterback in Dante Moore, man. I think he's a guy. He can move pretty well. I mean, I think he's got a decent arm and the whole deal. I think that guy needs another year. And granted, listen, man, if people are telling you you're going to be a top 3 pick, I can't blame you for going, right? I don't, you know, if they're telling because you can't guarantee that next year, it's going to be better, right? When they're talking about next year's class is going to be better or whatever. But I just think the percentages do not work in his favor. That's all.
I also think
and gun in my head, I would take Mendoza over Dante Moore.
Go back and look who a quarterback did that. Matt Leinart did that. He fell to 10. He was out of the NFL so quick. But on the I don't know if Mendoza is going to be what he's going to be, but I'm just going off of his pure intangibles, the way he handles himself. He's not going to be he's football centric. And if you're in Las Vegas, you ever been to Las Vegas, or if you've ever been to New York, those towns will eat you up and chew you out. And if anybody can handle either of those towns, it would be Fernando Mendoza because I'm all about football. But do you have any I mean I know where you are. I know who you're picking. Do you got any score predictions on this game, Q?
Oh, score predictions, man. Man, I'm still working on that one, man. I hate doing all of it. If you made me choose right now, man, I think obviously, I mean, I'm picking Miami. I think I'd probably go something like I'm gonna go 29-26 Miami.
Okay. I have no way, shape, or form know where I'm leaning in this game. I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be Indiana covering. I have no clue where it is. I don't think it's going to be an 8.5 point victory for Indiana. I just don't see that happening with Miami's defense. Now they have proven teams wrong. I just don't see that happening. I don't know where I'm going this year. I'm not a Miami Hurricanes fan. I just love college football. So either way, I'm going to win. If it's a great football game, I'm winning. That's all I want. But I still see a 4 or 5 point victory from either side. I see it a very close game coming down to the wire. I'm probably going to end up taking Miami to cover because 8.5 points for a national title game is a lot.
Yeah. Again, man, listen, I heard Dan Le Batard say it earlier. Miami shouldn't be, at this point in the season, Miami shouldn't be an 8.5 point underdog against anybody. There's not a single team in the country that Miami should be an 8.5 point underdog against. I don't care who it is, right? And so, again, man, I think the disrespect continues, right? It's a position they've been in before. Where I put stock in is this. I get more like, obviously, Mendoza is going to be the best quarterback they've played all year, right? But when you're looking at, in terms of like, you're looking at position groups, right? I mean, Miami's played, I know Indiana's receiving group is good. Miami's played better position. Miami's played a better Indiana's wide receiver room is really good. Miami's played better wide receiver rooms. Ohio State, Texas A&M, right? I think you can make the argument Ole Miss is, in terms of just depth is probably better than Indiana's, right? When you're looking at running back rooms, Miami's played better running back rooms. When you're looking at defense, Miami's played better defenses. What I think Indiana has in terms of what Miami hasn't played better than, I think you're looking at Mendoza at quarterback and Kurt Cignetti as a head coach. I think this is going to be the best coach team that Miami has played, along with the best quarterback they've played. And I think that goes a long way, right? But by the same token, when you're looking at what Indiana has played and what they haven't played, you can say about Mario Cristobal whatever it is you want. But when you're looking at the talent on the field and the way that's being coached by the coordinators, I don't think Indiana has played a better O-line. I don't think Indiana has played a better D-line, right? I don't think Indiana has played a better running back room. And I get what's at Penn State. I think those guys fell way below expectation this year. You're looking around at wide receiver room. Yeah, obviously Ohio State's wide receiver room is better. But again, that O-line and D-line, that matters, right? That running game matters. But Miami has, when they said they weren't going to be able to run the ball against A&M, they did. When they said we're going to be able to run the ball against Ohio State, they did. So again, something's got to give, right? I think both teams are in kind of similar position in terms of what they haven't seen from opposing teams and what they're going to see on Saturday. But again, I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm not buying the hype with Indiana, and I think Miami's going to win the game.
All right. I'm good. We'll hopefully be back next week, recapping the game. We'll see if Q's able to talk or not. But maybe I'll just come back and talk the game, but hopefully we'll be back next week and keep you guys posted. But I'm gonna toss to my man for our sign off.
Yeah, man. You're here. Here we are, man. We're inside of a week, to the game, and it's man, it's getting real. It's getting real, man. We'll see what I'm excited to see what the rest of the week brings in terms of people making predictions and everything. Hopefully, I think to answer, I think Juan Manuel a while back asked about team health. I think Miami by and large is looking fairly healthy. I think. The only question there, I think, is Damari Brown at corner. They're saying he's still questionable. I think Elijah Lofton at tight end. But, again, Elijah Lofton hasn't really played a bunch this season, so I'm not super worried about that one. And then Damari Brown obviously would be helpful to have against those receivers that Indiana has, man. But, again, man, I think they've gotten past this flu bug. I think they're healthy going into this game. And again, man, I like their chances. Well, if we don't get back on, before the game, then we'll get back on after and chop it up and and see what happened. But man, until then, everybody does a huge favor, man. Go on the page, like and subscribe. Check out everybody else on the FTSN network, man. A lot of people, putting out some good content. All your Dolphins coverage and your Canes coverage and your they got everything from wrestling to they got it all on there, man. Check out, Adrian Rainey with the Rainy Day Pod, my boy Will with the 305 Now Sports podcast, so on and so forth, man. Great people putting out some great content. Like I said, check us both out on YouTube, on X, on all the platforms, man. So if Russ, if you don't got anything else, man, we'll leave it here. So for my boy Russ, I am Q. Appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll check you guys out next week. Y'all take care.